If you had only 5 days to relive again, which days would you choose? The concept of having the opportunity to correct regrets is a central theme in Matt Micropulous' latest novel, 5 Days. Matt specializes in writing character-driven adult fiction with elements of fantasy and romance. And just like his first two novels, 5 Days is also set in Connecticut. Nice to have you back here, Matt.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so set the scene for us with the book.
Sure. 5 Days is the story of Michael Postman, who is a high school math teacher in Connecticut, and after a particularly draining day, he goes for a walk along the Long Island Sound, and as he's coming around the bend, he hears the shouts of a little boy who says his friend's fallen in off the pier and he can't swim. So he jumps into the water, grabs the kid. He's not the greatest swimmer himself, but he manages to kind of hurl the boy towards the pier, and his buddy pulls him out, and he ends up drowning in the process. And because of the way he died, he is given the opportunity to go back and relive any 5 days of his life. And they can be days that he enjoyed and wants to relive, days that he had regrets and wants to make changes, or just days from history that he had no idea, that he had no control over the first time around.
Yeah, well, we were talking about the topic, and I'm thinking of fabulous days of my life, my wedding, the day my sister was born, that type of thing, but you could change history and save lives.
You can't, I mean, that's the idea. The idea is he gets a little bit of all of them. He picks a couple days that he enjoys, he picks a couple days that affected his life, and then he picks some days that affected everybody's lives. And obviously the idea also is that, you know, you can't fix everything, but if you could go back knowing what you know now, then you can make some changes into it. The interesting thing that people have said to me that have read it is the idea that days that affected his life in many respects were days from history. And so everybody has been able to say, hey, I remember where I was then on that day. And so from that perspective, I think it gives it kind of a broad appeal.
So without giving away too much of the book, can you talk about one or two of the days?
Sure. The days that he picks, one of the days being an example of a day that he enjoyed, that he loved, and it really honestly was one of my best days, and that's where it came from, was the day the hockey team beat the Soviet Union in the 1980 Olympics. And I was a little kid back then, but I'll never forget it, the honking horns and the blasting of the trumpets of the national anthem, and people just, everybody, it was the friendliest day. It was like the whole country was
pride,
unified.
right?
Yeah, and I'll never forget that day. There was just something about it that we haven't had since, and I don't think we'll have again, because the Olympics now have professional athletes, so it's changed. And this was college kids beating them, so that was a day that I'll never forget, and that's just an example of one of the days that ends up in there.
Very good. And where did the idea come from?
The idea came from just a conversation over a beer with some friends over talking about, what are your best days? If you had to pick the 5 best days of your life, what would they be? And then from that, I created a backstory and went to develop a story around that concept.
And your first two novels kind of have a similar theme about correcting mistakes or regret. Yeah. Is that a pattern?
You know what, this one's a little different from Knights of Redemption, which is really, Knights was more about correcting your greatest mistake. This one is more about getting a chance to re-experience life with a little more experience behind you, and then also not so much correcting your own mistakes, but maybe getting the chance to fix something from history that you couldn't.
And what has the feedback been like? Are people telling you their days? What are they saying?
Yeah, I'll hear from people that will say, you know what, my favorite day was such and such, or I remember where I was at the Police concert at Shea Stadium, which when you know, I remember this day, I remember the hockey day. So yeah, the feedback's been great, and I think that fact that they can relate to the days that end up in there gives it that appeal. Yeah,
quite a conversation starter, right?
Yeah, well, you would hope. But,
what's next for you, Matt?
Couple ideas in the burner. We'll see. You know, I tend to write in spurts, and hopefully sometime next year. But I'll have something out. But yeah, no, this one just came out. Over Memorial Day weekend.
Great.
And it's been pretty well received so far.
Where can we find it, most importantly?
You can find it on Amazon. It can even be ordered through Barnes & Noble and whatnot. And yeah, they're both in Kindle version and then the print version, which is here.
Very good. Well, I'll have to have you back when you write some more.
I definitely will. I appreciate
All right, Matt, thanks again. The name of the book is 5 Days, available just about anywhere.